Okay, with that, we'll call this meeting to order. For welcome and introductions, we'll take a roll call and then there's a couple of small announcements we'll go over. So go ahead, Ray.
All right, Tony Doan.
Here.
Meg Haley. Quinn Tai.
Here.
John Napier. Mike Six. Dave Cocott.
Here.
Thank you, Dave. Ken Burlett.
Here.
Chris Seaman.
Here.
And Matthew Campbell.
Here.
All right. And then we have an alternate, Paul Clark's with us. Paul, you there?
Here.
All right, thank you. And Kevin Marr. Zach Tutt. All right, we have a quorum.
Excellent. Anyone from the public that would like to be recognized?
Yeah, this is Matt Kosonen with Suppression Systems Incorporated.
Welcome, Matt.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to be recognized from the public? Excellent. Okay, with that, we have a couple of announcements and Ray can chip in here. We do have another seat that will officially be filled this week. Is that correct, Ray?
What I'd say that one more time. I'm sorry.
There's another seat that'll officially be filled this week from Ricky.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so Ricky Campbell will be filling a seat. So we'll be looking at a new fire tag member, which is great to hear. So that'll be official probably the next meeting. So hopefully he can join us for that. The other thing that we want to talk about just to start off is that Shannon Pitts with DES, who's been a huge resource to the tags, is leaving the DES for a new opportunity. So congratulations to her. And that starts, I think, is it the 30th? Is her last day, Ray? June 30th?
I believe so.
All right. And is there anything more you'd like to say on that, Ray?
No, I just like to put it on the record that she was a huge beneficial part of where we are at today with the tags, and her organization skills are going to benefit us in the future, even though she is gone. So I just want to thank her personally for all the hard work she's done and what she's given the State Building Code Council.
Absolutely. Well said, Ray. Well said. Okay. With that, let's jump to item number 2, which is review and approve agenda, which you have in front of you. Is there any discussion on that or any recommended changes? Okay, with that, looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Thank you. Discussion?
We need to adjust the time on it at all, or is that just something we can track through the minutes?
I will just reference the minutes that we paused the meeting for an hour to get a quorum.
Okay.
In the minutes.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris.
If everybody's okay with that.
I'm good with that. Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries. We'll be moving on to item 3. That will be for review and approve summary minutes from the June 3rd tag meeting. We have that up in front of us now. Any recommendations for changes? Go ahead, Quinn.
I was gonna move to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as is.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, any against? Perfect, motion carries. All right, with that, we'll be jumping to number 4, which is the editorial suggestions for the 2018 IFC CR 105. Ray, do you want to speak on that?
Hold on. Was that on the agenda?
Yeah, it's number 4. If I have the right one.
Oh, this was more of an announcement that I'm making.
Oh.
I apologize for that. So, you know, the best way to find editorial changes in the code is just to get into it. And now that we've actually been using the 2018 code, if by any chance you have found some minor discrepancies or something that needs to be changed editorially, I am going to be filing a CR 105 for the 2018 ISC to pick up some of those small editorial changes that we have found throughout using the book. In the past, this is where we're going. We have just found editorial changes and filed a CR 105 to correct them throughout the year. The State Building Code Council is now looking at setting key dates that we don't know what those dates are going to look like yet, but we will make modifications to the website if we find errors in the code, and then we can make a master list, and we'll just, like, every 6 months we'll file a CR 105. So that way it'll shorten up our rulemaking process, and we're not filing 105 after 105 after 105 to make these corrections. And the tag members or the inspectors or who's ever using the code know that if they find something, they have a certain date that they can submit it by, and it'll get picked up.
Excellent.
So we are going to be filing one. If you know of anything, just please bring it to my attention through email or a phone call, and I'll make sure it gets picked up in the CR 105.
Excellent. Thank you, Ray. Any discussion on that?
So Ray, I know that I've sent some earlier in the year. Did you have that on master list, or do I need to resurrect those?
I will go back and look, Dave. I know it's funny because I usually, if one person sends me, I get a couple others, so I put a list together. If I need any assistance, I'll send an email to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Excellent. Okay, with that, we'll be going to agenda item number 5, which is review code change proposals approved from the 5/21/21 council meeting. So tomorrow we're going to get an approval for, sounds like, the rest of the list, right, Ray?
Yeah, everything that's shaded down here, we're hoping that the council will push this to the tag so we can start reviewing them. I sent them out in an email. I don't think it was shaded in the email. The reason I sent it out is just to assist the tag in working ahead. You know, we can review them and make notes and get them moving.
Okay, so we'll keep chipping away at the list that we have from the approval from council on 5/21. And where do we want to start on this, Ray?
I think I talked to Ken. Ken would like to start on the definitions. Is that right, Ken?
Yes, I'm unmuted. Yeah, we'll do that chapter. Which number is that?
10?
Yeah, number 10. You want to pull that one up?
If anytime anybody needs the size changed of the document so they can read it better, just please let me know.
So I believe we talked about this one last meeting, but the bottom part of it was a change to the building code, which I presented the building code tag. There's one change that needs to be shown on this document, and that's something that was done at the national code change for the 2024, and I explained it also in the building code tag, is the word system needs to be added after the 918.1, which will be done in the building code. And then also probably in the, yeah, that's where it's being added. So that was if you look, I don't know if anybody has access to it or not, but that's what was in the meeting. Hold on a second, pull up the right document. The Group A 2021 report of the committee action says that this proposal appropriately aligns the terminology for in-building communication systems with that used by industry. And it says, note that the IBC section 918.1 was editorially revised to add the term system. And then it's supposed to state in-building emergency responder communication enhancement system. And it was an approval by vote of 14-0. So again, we're just trying to move some of the newer language that's being used out in the field into our 2021 code, so we don't have to wait years and years and years for the 24 code to get implemented. So that's the significance of this change. It's more of a language issue than anything else.
That's in the 19, right, Ken? Right here. Is that where it goes? I'm trying to edit this document. I've lost where you lost me in the language where you want system added.
Wouldn't it be after every enhancement? Or,
Pretty much, I
Yeah.
believe so. Not every single one in the whole thing, but pretty much. Like there, no.
No. Here.
there, yes.
Yeah, that was just an editorial that they missed and I didn't catch it either. So yeah, wherever it's not listed, we'll just add it in there.
So 918.1 too, Ray, just down a little bit. There you go.
You see it any more? It looks like they pick it up several other times.
That'll be a plural systems there, Ray.
Right here.
The last one you typed.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's a different code proposal. I think that's it.
I think so. Okay, and this is consistent with what we talked about at our last one, because there was a proposal to change to enhancement previous in a different one, right, Ken?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I believe so. I think this is part of the
Oh, okay.
previous one that we talked to, but we didn't want to move it forward until I got it through the building code tag. Just to be consistent.
That did happen at the last meeting then, so we're good now.
This was 3, right? No, I'm saving something goofy. Hold on here.
Ray, let me know when you're caught up and I'll open this up for discussion.
Go ahead.
Okay, is there any discussion on this right now? Okay, with that, we'd be looking for a motion to move this forward to the State Building Code Council, or excuse me, BFP committee.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries.
All right, next one.
Might as well just keep going down the list, I guess.
Okay. All right, that would be, what is it? 510.1. 510.1. Sorry, I got to find it in my edited when I can edit. 510.1.
No, that's, I don't think the right one.
Oh, that's 510.5.1. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What number was that?
Now,
Ken?
11.
11? Okay, I found it. This is
So hopefully you're saving the documents you're editing,
I am.
not doing one of my mistakes.
That's also why I'm highlighting them on the tracking sheet, so I know what I did.
Yeah, so blow it up if you can. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
We did this one already, I thought.
I thought we did too.
Yeah,
Did
we added individuals and we added the C log. So I must
Okay,
have
well,
not.
yeah, I was just going off of your list.
Yep, that's me. Sorry
Okay,
about
good.
that.
You wanna move it along just in case we forgot we didn't do it before?
Yeah, that might be a smart thing to do, just to, I mean, I'll explain it again if you want.
Yeah.
I think it was,
Thank you.
oh, maybe we didn't do it. Maybe we didn't put it down because we wanted to do some correlation. Wasn't there something like that? We want to make sure we got correlated with the other logs. I kind of
Well,
somewhat
You
remember.
know,
something like
what
that.
we might want to do is open it back up, because maybe we need to add the word system in that also in the exceptions. I think we're okay, because I'm reading through it again.
Right here, communication coverage system. Says coverage system in every
Yeah,
other.
and I think we're okay with number 3.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I think we're good. I'm sorry for having you bring it up. But hey, I'll make a motion to move this proposal number 11 forward to the BFP, just so we're legit.
Thanks, Ken.
Second.
We have a second from Chris. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
13 next.
Oh gosh, 13. Okay. So this took a lot of work regionally to work on with other AHJs in our region here. And this is what has been adopted here on the west side of the mountain. So what we did is, in the beginning, the acceptance test procedure, instead we struck not less than 95%. We just referenced in accordance with section 510.4.1, which is in a different section, which explains the actual coverage that's required. And so that's why we struck it. So you'd actually have to go back to 510.4.1 and look at that. One of the issues was breaking up the floor area and what to do with certain sized buildings. And before Ken Carlson arrived, this was kind of his baby here, was trying to come up with some language. And what we ended up doing is taking some language, which was from NFPA 1221, that gave some examples in the annex of how to divide up the floor areas. So that's where that number 1 comes in, and added that language in to be a little bit more specific based on the test size areas. The number 3 was just to identify that you needed a calibrated spectrum analyzer when you're doing the testing. And again, says, hey, you got to do it for that testing grid, which is in that number 1 above, and include the signal strengths and frequencies for each test area. So we're trying to get as specific as possible for what industry is actually doing out in the field. We just wanted to make sure it was outlined and industry agreed with it, and also to include all the critical areas. And then the functional talkback testing. This is something that a lot of the jurisdictions do, and Seattle's kind of unique because this is all we do, is just the functional talkback testing. And it does talk about, hey, the radios you should be using are the latest brand and model used by the agency's radio communication system. And normally they get loaned out from, like, up here in here, our area, PCERN will loan out the material for the testing. And then we have the DAQ 3 or higher that needs to be in there. And just again, some more descriptions on the grids and where it needs to be done. The failure and the failure of more than, and it said one test area, and it was decided just to go with a 5% on any floor in lieu of, except for critical areas. They just said, you still got to have the 99% floor area for the critical areas. And then the documentation maintained on premises, the number 11. We were trying to come up with some wording that helped make sure before the COO was issued, and these are again all new systems, that they have this material left in an area someplace that can be found. So this is just the information that we were asking for to be in there, which included a certificate that it's been installed and tested in accordance, with Chapter 510, the grid square that was created, any manufactured data sheets on all the entire system, batteries, charging system, head-in unit, and then the wiring schematic, and then also a copy of the electrical permit. So it's a lot to digest, but we did, have good meetings throughout industry with this. And then again, it has been adopted by a few fire departments here. When they adopted the 2018 code, they went ahead and included this in their 2018 code. So just looking to see if the tag wants to move this forward and insert it in 21. And if they do, great. If they don't, then the locals on this side will continue to have it in the 2018 and just put it in the 2021 on their own. So there you go.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Let's open it up for discussion, questions. Go ahead, Quinn.
I had a couple notes when I looked at it last time. On the first one, if you look at the 510.5.4 acceptance test procedure, it's more of a comment that if the proposal for 11 gets passed, then we would need to change that, the two-way emergency responder communication coverage. Number 11, the previous proposal was to change that to emergency responder communication enhancement system. So that's something to consider moving forward. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
So Quinn, that's just the correlation, right? That we need to do. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
I understand that.
So just something to keep in mind.
Did I include that in that previous code amendment that we did show it changed?
I don't think so. Because that's just a model code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that will just be one of those fun correlation projects.
Yep. And then my other one was more of a clarification question. I think I probably understand what you're saying, but on item 5, failure of more than 5% of the test area, the note I had was, are we talking about 5% of each individual test area? So one of the 20, or are we talking about 5% of the total 20 grids?
I believe I think it's 5% of each test area.
That's what I kind of figured too, but I think it might, some people might have some confusion about that. I just kind of highlighted that.
Oh,
Do we take out the and put each?
I think it's, yeah, probably. It's meant to cover, I think the language was changed to make a maximum size test area. So you might end up with more than 20 because the base code just has 20 test areas. So when you get a big old building, you got 100 test areas, it's 5% of those total test areas, but you only check one place within a test area. Does that make sense? I think that was your question, Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you pick a test area and once you pick a spot in which to test in that area, you don't get to move around. It either passes or fails.
So do we remove each?
think it would be perhaps better to say failure of more than 5% of the test areas on any floor. That sounds more clear to me.
Of test areas. Let's see. Would you say, oh, geez, Louise.
Track all the changes.
I'm sorry.
Areas plural.
Correct. Areas plural.
Areas is plural. Test areas. Was that it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking at least.
Okay.
And do we want to make the, do we want to coincide that language that Quinn mentioned now, or is that something that we'll bring back? And we can approve it later.
I don't know that we have to approve it later. I think that's just,
That's a correlation we could do later, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
if they want help to do that, we could help them, but I don't.
Because it's dependent on number 11 being passed. So if number 11 doesn't get passed, then we don't need to do anything.
Understood. Okay. All right. Excellent. Any more conversation on that? Okay, with that, looking for a motion to push this to the VFP.
What number was this? Was this number 13?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll move to push number 13 to the BFP.
And I'll second it.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Oops. All right, and that was 13, so. Thank you, everybody. Now we'll go to number 16.
It's pretty bad that I'm 3 feet away from my 50-inch television. I got to put glasses on to read what you're putting up on the screen.
Doesn't surprise any of us.
I'm surprised it's only 50-inch.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this one. Okay. All right. So we currently have, I believe, a state of Washington amendment in the 51061 area, but this is going to be adding to that. And so I was not able, and let me ask, let's see, Ray, do you have access to the insert pages or anything that will show what our current amendment is right here that you could show?
What our current amendment is?
Yeah.
Well, I'm probably the guy that could find that.
Well, I can find it too.
I got it.
Okay. I just figured
What code section is it?
510.61.
510.61. Can you all see that?
Yes. Now we can.
Yeah, it's great with this no strike throughs, underlines. Okay, so if you look in 510.61 number 1, and I believe that what was added was or as required by the fire code official. I think that's what we did in the 2018 amendments. from the base code. So we added that or as required by the fire code official. So the number one in the proposal is just has that language in it also, but then it also has a reference to this new alternative in building coverage test. So if
It also says, the proposal also says you don't have to test indwelling units, I think.
well, yeah, the new the 2018 did.
No, the one that's we're looking
Yeah,
at
the one that,
today.
yeah, you're right. So I just wanted to pull up what was already in the 2018 code compared to what's in the proposal here.
Oh, okay,
So
I
the
see,
pro-
gotcha.
So the proposal is it got changed to showing items 1 through 7 because we added the number 5. And also I think the number 6 in here too. So we still have the number 1 in building coverage as required by the fire code official. But then we also have a reference to 510611, which is this alternate in building coverage test, which I'll get to. And then also what I think Chris was bringing up was the exception. So this was an exception during the testing. It's very difficult, as you know, even with fire alarms, is to get into the residential area of some of these buildings. And so in group R occupancies, the annual testing is not required within the dwelling units. So they don't have to continue to try to gain access into the units to verify the radio coverage. We just thought it was a little bit burdensome, and Bellevue had already put this into their code and had been in it for a while. And we just decided regionally to pick it up and put it in here. So it just makes kind of common sense to us. So we continue to put that in. The number 2 is just a better description, verify that the gain/output level. It's just some clarifications of terms. Number 4, again, they just want to add the word other, all other active components instead of just all active components. And active components are something that basically has like some form of a power running through it. Okay, and then number 5 is to do with the fire alarm systems. If a fire alarm system is present, then the test shall be conducted to verify that all the fire alarm system is properly supervising the emergency responder communication coverage system as required in that previous section. And it talks about how to perform the test. And also the certifications are sufficient for the personnel performing this testing. So there's some certification requirements that are back in 51052. And then number 6 is, again, making sure at the end of doing their testing that they have an updated grid diagram, the floor showing the critical areas and all the documentation that needs to be provided that's in 51053. And then the big thing here is this alternate in building coverage test, 510611. So industry was trying to, and I think Bowman was part of some of these talks, is trying to find, instead of having to test the entire system all over again, can we come up with this alternative in building coverage test? And this is what industry and the AHJs on the west side here came up with. So what they say is, hey, if you have an existing system and you have all of that documentation that's required in the 51053, and they also, or they have a 5-year test available. So we have all this documentation. We know that the system's functioning well, that, hey, we can just we don't have to do all the floor testing. So we can just go through and do these. Number 1, the functional talkback testing needs to get done. The signal strength using the spectrum analyzer shall be tested on each floor, and then on the 3 grid areas with the poorest performance that was done during the acceptance test or the most recent annual test. And then also, again, make sure we do the critical areas. And then 1 grid square per each serving antenna. Make sure that's done. And then the number, that's B and C. And then number 3, what else? I can't remember what the number 3 was, Deb, except oh, this was just more of a description that the test area boundaries should not deviate from the areas established at the acceptance test. So they're not going to change any of that. And I'm just trying to figure out if there's any more specifics. It's pretty much then back to the 95% of all areas in each floor, the building, 99% in critical areas. So they were just trying to get out of, again, redoing everything as hard as we do the first time and just coming up with an alternate in building coverage test. So it would be a little bit less time out on site, and which would be reconsidered as saving money for the business owner, because then the company's not out there as longer. What we've been finding is this is not going to happen too often right now because the record management has been so poor. So they are not been able to have the records and documentation of the systems being installed in the past. So this is, since this is a newer requirement, they're like, oh man, now I got to make sure I have all the records. And if I have those, then I can do this alternate in building coverage test. So it's kind of making people decide that I better make sure I have all these records and I keep them up to date. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pay for a full-blown test all over again, which is going to cost me more money versus going through this alternate in building coverage test. That's all I got.
Okay, let's open it up for questions and comments.
I like it all. I think that's cool.
Okay, and Ken, just for clarification, this is already in place in Bellevue and Seattle?
Yeah, Bellevue and Seattle, and I can't remember if I think Redmond might have put this into.
Okay, excellent. Okay, there's no further discussion. Looking for a motion to approve and move forward to the BFP committee.
This is Chris. I'll move it forward to the BFP.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Chris and a second from Matthew. Thank you. Discussion?
This is Quinn. Sorry, I was still trying to dissect everything that was said. I do have a short question here on the alternative. You mentioned that 3 grids. Would that conflict with the previous proposal of 20 grids?
Oh, absolutely, because the 20 grids is what is required when you do a brand new system for an acceptance test. This is a far less requirement because you have all that documentation about the system. So yeah, it's a less stringent requirement for testing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
the idea being there, Quinn, that if the system degrades or something's wrong, you'll
Yep.
catch it on those 3 grids, and
Got
then
it.
you'll have to dig deeper.
Okay, I'm good.
Sorry if
Excellent.
I closed that too early.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, any against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Tony, really quickly, I mean, it looks like we're going to get it once. It might take a little more time. I just wanted to ask if there is anybody online that has a specific one, a guest that they wanted to talk about, a proposal,
Absolutely.
so we're not hanging in for the long good stuff. So
Matt,
if anybody's online that would like to address a proposal, now would be the time. Okay.
all right. Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward.
Moving on to lithium batteries. Okay, so here's my speech on lithium batteries. We got nothing. We got nothing in the code. We have nothing in NFPA 855 that helps us with the storage of lithium batteries. NFPA 855 has a section, I think it's chapter 14, but it has to do with what they call, I think, off-cycle batteries and nothing to do with really new batteries and storage of these things. So there was this, they tried to get something in the 21 code before, it didn't get in. They tried 2018 code, didn't get in. But they, with the 2024 code, they had an F21-21 proposal, which you see here. And the committee made some changes to it, which is just the terminology that you see new or refurbished under number 1 and number 2. That was added by the committee at the committee hearing. Hold on, I gotta turn off this other meeting I'm supposed to be at. And it was voted on and got approved 14 to 0. So we're trying to get something into the code to help cover the storage of lithium ion and lithium metal batteries, because we don't have anything. And this is some language that I did not draft up. I'm just trying to get it moved forward. I have the calls on a weekly basis. I have one right now with our special hazard units that our firefighters are finding these things stored out in these buildings, and there's no requirements for it. We don't even know how to permit it. And so that's the reason that you have this proposal in front of you. And I really hope people take a look at it. I'm going to try to pull it up again because I just lost it.
Is this the one that Tesla put in? Is that what it is?
No, this one actually, let me pull up who actually submitted it. F21, let me pull it up really quick. I think it might have been Davidson. Let me find out. F21. This was, yeah. Did I reference F21? I think I did. Yeah, this was actually, proponent was International Association of Fire Chiefs, and also Jeff Shapiro representing himself. I think this, yeah, this is, yeah. So it's F21-21. So they were the two proponents. So it came out of the fire chiefs. And if you don't know who Jeff Shapiro, however you want to say it, he's been around as long or longer than me. I remember being in California in classes in the early 80s with him, teaching hazmat. So running through the proposal, let me get back to that. It now has a an actual section for lithium batteries, 105.6.27, and they talk about 15 cubic feet. Some of the other proposals in the past talked about 1,000 pounds, and I don't know why they made that change, but I guess the 15 cubic feet is what they decided on based on what they'd been seeing out in industry. The 301.2 section just added, again, this new section 321 for permits. And then the important part here is to look at these exceptions. So we're not going after the equipment, devices, or vehicles that are designed to, you know, I don't know how to describe that. So if it's already in the piece of equipment, like you go to Home Depot and it's the lithium batteries already packed in there, we're not looking at that. We're not looking at the cars that are on display inside a Tesla facility. So that kind of takes care of one and two. Also, number 3, original retail packaging, and then you have the rating of 300 watt hours or less, and they also have a 25 grams or less. Any type of temporary storage. Also, this was brought up about the number 5, temporary storage of batteries during vehicle manufacturing repair process. I had brought this up to our own fire code advisory board last year, and that was one of their concerns was, okay, if somebody's doing repair on a electric vehicle and they have they pull out a battery all of a sudden, do they need to have a permit for it or not? And we're like, no, that's really not in the scope. So we were happy to see that this was added in there. And then the fire safety plan, that was something that was added in as, hey, you got to go to section 4, chapter 4 to put in a fire safety plan. It is a lot of added work to do that, but it's best to have the people that actually are doing the storage actually know what they're supposed to be doing when there is a problem. And so that was added in. And then they have the limited indoor storage in containers, not more than 15 cubic feet shall be permitted to be stored in containers, and the following, and it has to be a open top and constructive non-combustible materials shall be approved for battery collection, which I don't have a list of those containers. I don't know what they would be. They have a capacity limitation of 7.5 cubic feet. And then they have if you have a second container separated, not less than 3 feet. Then we got a separation to access doors. The technical opinion and report. So this is something that you may want to be a little softer on and not have it be a shall. You might want to make it, when required. Because this is, I don't know how many people can, and maybe Dave Cocott could help me with this. I don't know how many people are actually qualified to give a technical opinion or report on the fire and explosion risks associated with indoor storage or not. So this might be one of those, hey, I got a whole bunch of them. I'm way above the permitted amounts, and I want to make sure that suppression system's going to be adequate for this large, warehouse or whatever they're doing. That's when I think maybe a technical opinion and report might be required. So that's something I think as a group you might want to discuss. And then the construction requirements for actually when you're storing them. So they talk about, hey, we got to separate them with the 2-hour rated fire barriers or horizontal assemblies. And there is an exception where they do store it in one or more approved prefab portable structures that already have a 2-hour rated fire risk rating enclosure. And then when it's also when you have new batteries in packaging, that the fire code official says, yeah, these are new batteries. You're not opening them up. You're not charging them. We're okay. You don't need to provide that 2-hour separation. Now here comes some of the fire protection system requirements. It has to be stored in a sprinkler building or an alternate fire suppression system. And that's something that we don't have now. We have no requirements for these storage. So we have them in buildings that have sprinklers and in buildings that don't. Fire alarm system. This is pretty specific. It talks about the fire detection system should use air aspirating smoke detection, radiant energy sensing fire detection, or both. And again, that's extremely detailed. So I don't know if the tag wants to tweak that or not. And if you do have that technical report done and they say, hey, guess what? You should have explosion control, then you need to put it in. Then there's some what they call reduced requirements for partially charged batteries. So when you have the batteries sometimes come with a predetermined charge in them, and when they have one not exceeding 30%, they don't have to comply with those sections above. So you might get shipped batteries to your facility. They're under this 30%. So I don't have to do all of the fire protection sprinklers and all of that. But hey, I can't all of a sudden charge them up, repackage them, and go over the 30% without providing those safeguards that are above. And then there's an outdoor storage, which I have not seen anybody doing outdoor storage of this, but they're just throwing in these additional requirements for outdoor storage with some separations here, 20 feet from property lines and public street. And then I think, oh yeah, you can go down to 3 feet if you have that a 2-hour fire that's rated assembly. And then there's some size limits for the separations. Oh yeah, if they do outdoor storage area under the fire detection, then they do have to have an approved radiant energy sensing fire detection system if they do outdoor storage and it's kind of in a prefab structure. And again, then the 403.10.6 is just a new section for the fire safety plans because that's referenced in 321. This table gets updated for additional required fire protection systems. And let's see if there's anything else in that table. I think that was it. And then, so that was my explanation, but what I did is I kind of cut and paste some of the national language that was proposed in the 2024 code, and that's in the purpose down here, number 5. So I know it's a lot to digest. And if you guys, definitely I'm here to listen if you guys want to tweak anything. I can just tell you in Seattle, I'm moving forward with this locally just because we have nothing on the books and we're just running into these. So I'm going to try to create our own policy / administrative rule and come up with something so we can start enforcing it prior to the 21 code coming out. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Ken. We got a few comments here. I'm going to start with just a couple real quick, and then we'll get to some others. I think Quinn and Chris might have something to say too. But on the numbering, I'm seeing 321 as an addition to the 2021. There's already a 321, unless we got rid of that in our initial overview of chapter 3. But 321 right now is artificial combustible vegetation in the 2021, and so we may just have to move this to 322. And then just as a clarifying point, this would not go under 12 because it's not, these are not batteries that are providing energy to a facility. These are just transitory, like they're being stored there until they get shipped off for use. Is that what we're dealing with here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Okay.
They're not connected to anything.
Okay, excellent. So that's all I had. I know Quinn had his hand up. Go ahead, Quinn.
I think you might have answered one of my questions because you said 12 isn't going to be pertinent. Because I was going to bring up the number for, let me see, 321 to exception 3, where it's rated for 300 watts per hour. I was just kind of curious where you got the 300 because in table 1207.5, the maximum allowable is 600. So I was just kind of trying to correlate the two.
You know what? I didn't draft up the original, so I'm looking in the explanation if there's anything in there.
I wasn't sure if it's going to conflict with the 600 versus 300, but if chapter 12 isn't going to be really pertinent, then I wouldn't worry about it.
Thank you, Quinn. Chris,
Tony,
you have-
do you think these will all need to be 322? Is that what you said?
that's what I'm seeing, unless I'm missing something there.
Yeah, that was my other comment, was 321's already taken.
And Chris, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry, of course. When you were talking, Ken, it sounded like you didn't think it was going to hit the Home Depot stuff. I think it might. Just a 2-pack of 4 amp hour.
The
lithium-ion
number
batteries.
2 under
not-
321.1.
Oh, package 4 use with, not, got it. Okay. Okay, I'm convinced. That
Okay.
works. I was concerned because it sounded like it had to be installed. in,
I gotta answer something really quick. I'll be right back.
Thanks, Ken.
So then we're really just talking about Bird and Lyft and all the like scooter stuff, repair shop or bicycle repair shops that do electric bikes and things, and then electric cars. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest obstacle a lot of people might have, going back to my concern, is the number 300. Where are we getting that number? They might question it, is all I'm saying. You know, they might say, why not go higher?
Over on the west side, is there some reports of fires instances where this 300 was decided upon? That's well, I guess Ken's still on his call, but that's what I would be curious of.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that Seattle had a big fire with one of the scooter places.
Oh.
Would,
That-
My-
would,
oh, go ahead.
All right, I'm
would
sorry,
any
I'm back, guys.
larger facilities that had alternative reserve power sources, would this be an issue for an institutional occupancy with an on-site storage of batteries? Or
I
would that fall
don't
under a different
think
category?
so. I think
Okay.
it's excluded because that would be the energy storage system.
Yeah. Chapter 12, yeah. that
Yeah.
would fall under that.
I was gonna check maybe with our solid waste people. I know they recycle batteries,
Oh,
and see how this might impact them, how they collect them. But 15 cubic feet is a lot. So
yeah. And Ken, is there a fire history?
it's like a pallet.
Well, we have one, and we've had at least 2 incidents in Seattle. I think Dave's had one in Spokane. Both of ours, well, not both of them. I know one of ours was storage related and the other one was charging related. But we're finding right now that I got one of my inspectors that says, hey, I got 5,000 of these batteries being stored in this warehouse right now.
Oh, wow.
And they get shipped out to other places. And they're just trying to come up with any type of regulation. And so, I'm just don't have anything. So NFPA 855 was the closest thing what we had, but it doesn't apply, even the 2020 version. So we're just trying to come up with something that will help us out. And
Ken,
believe me, this could grow.
I really do like it. Like I said, I think the only thing to be prepared is if people start questioning the numbers. That's it. But I think overall, having something is better than nothing.
But what I'm worried, this is what I'm worried about, that technical opinion and report. If it says, shall be prepared to evaluate the blah, 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 the report shall be submitted to the fire. So it just says it will be prepared. And I didn't know if that is just too great of an ask, because I don't know if there's technical people that can do this right now.
Yeah, I would be cool with just saying where required by the fire code official.
Chris is reading my mind.
Yep.
So I'll have Ray add that in someplace. Yeah, okay.
Oops. Is that where you guys wanted it? Would fire code
Exactly.
official be capitalized? I always get those mixed up.
Yeah, they're big people. They get capitals.
And you get the italicized too.
Right.
Oh, that's right. There's all right. That's why you guys get paid the big bucks and I'm on this end. Oops.
No, I'm not that person. That's why I go to these meetings.
Ah. Like I said, everybody should have to sit on my end at one meeting.
Not it.
And I know that you made the comment that, yeah, 15 cubic feet is a lot. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to lower that threshold or not, or just stick with what's being proposed for the 24 code, so we don't have to come up with more justification.
Yeah, no, I was a lot was in context of how it might impact our solid waste folks and the recycling. So
I don't think it would take long to get 15 cubic feet if you had a warehouse full of scooters.
right, but no, just at the hazardous waste place where you can take the batteries.
Right.
I doubt that they stockpile more than a pallet load before they take it away to whoever does the actual recycling.
So I do have
I was just gonna say, does DOT have a limit on how much can be in one container and during shipping? Isn't there like a cascade effect or something with those? That'd be
Yeah.
something we could reference, not reference DOT, but it would give us a good gauge of how much.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't live in the fire code that much. You guys are all the experts and I'm the dummy here. Would it make sense or not to have something about lithium ion in chapter 50? Like in the quantity table?
Not that we can come up with,
Okay.
yes, it does, but it doesn't from
some
a,
point.
Well,
some
I
point,
yeah.
think that I think there's something in high power storage now. I'm gonna double check.
There is.
Oh,
For battery.
okay.
There is.
Yeah,
Chapter
is it?
32 does have it.
Okay, they do have it. They do have a reference that it's a high hazard.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just wasn't sure if it should also belong in chapter 50 in one of the tables or not, but I'm not an expert on lithium.
It's not really, it doesn't meet any of the definitions of a hazardous. I guess it could maybe have a deflagration hazard.
Yeah, it's funny because I was researching just, DOT requirements, and it has its separate packaging requirements. You just package it and it says lithium batteries on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, just itself, the battery is not the problem. It's the contents inside the battery. And so when you look at their safety data sheets, there's really no hazard. It's not regulated.
Okay, so with that, Dave, do you have any comment on the technical opinion and report or anything from the fire you dealt with?
Well, from our standpoint, I think that, yeah, this is something that's been an issue for us because we did have an incident in Spokane. We've actually had some of these storage facilities going up, and it's been kind of challenging trying to have a basis as to what to require for that. And we made some attempts. In general, I think I pretty much did the technical report, just trying to figure out more about how what it was going to do and how it's going to do things. And we have a little bit more restrictive requirements because of our aquifer. So we had some concerns about some other things as well with it. So I like this because it does give us a starting point. And whenever we do some new code like this, we always tend to pull somebody out during the hearings to bring up more testimony for it. So I think it's a good opportunity to throw it out there. And the tag will take our shots at it, obviously. And by moving it forward, we've gone all the way to the final Building Code Council hearing with some new things as to language changes occurring even at council, which we try not to do, but it always seems to happen that way. But I think this is a good place, good place to start, and we'll be able to start getting some public testimony with this right going to BFP.
Go ahead, Ken.
I really like that. I mean, once it goes to the council, we will have public comment on this, and hopefully somebody from industry can add input.
So how would you guys feel if Ray went ahead and made the change and made it all 322 series? So then that's just one less thing for somebody to bring up.
Good with that.
Can you see that I did that already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if you did it up in the proposal or not. I don't know if.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're gonna make me do it right.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Incomplete. Okay. So with that,
Well, as
go
well
ahead.
as the references within there too, because they do refer to different parts of it internally with language. So we'll just have to go through and edit that.
Okay. With that, are we comfortable with a motion to push this forward to BFP?
Yep, I'll motion to approve this.
Thank you, Quinn.
No second.
Thank you, Dave. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion carries. Thank you.
Can I make a motion to have a 5-minute break for us?
Yes, that sounds great.
All right, thanks, guys.
Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and get this fired up again.
Record. Good.
All right, let's see. We got Tony Doan,
Here.
Ben, Ty,
Here.
Dave Cocott,
Here.
Ken Brulette,
Here.
Chris Seaman.
Found it. Okay, here.
Matthew Campbell.
Here.
All right, that's our quorum. And we have some alternates in there too. So
Excellent. Okay, sounds good. Let's jump back in then.
All right, so, and I'm glad I met the fire code tag and building code tag. So this is extremely simple. There's a new UL 142A listing, and it's called special purpose above ground tanks for specific flammable combustible liquids. And it's used a lot for generator sub tanks or base tanks. I see it a lot in Seattle with our emergency generators. It's a new standard that's recognized by NFPA 30 in their 2021 edition. So we're just trying to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve and get this included into the 2021 code in Washington State, and not have to wait again till the 24 code. And that's what this proposal is all about.
Ken, this is Matt. How much of this is in institutional licensed occupancies? Sorry, let me say that a different way. I2 occupancies, healthcare occupancies licensed by Washington State, or occupancies licensed by the Department of Health or Department of Social and Health Services versus everyone else?
So are you asking me how many emergency generators do you have at hospitals?
No. I'm asking how much of this rule would pertain to hospitals versus other occupancies.
It's not an occupancy driven. It's based on a new UL listing that's used majorly majorly for generator sub tanks.
So I asked the question wrong. I apologize. As far as the impact goes, and I say this because nursing homes and hospitals, psych and general purpose hospitals, will be operating under a previous edition of NFPA 30. Because of the federal rules of conditions of participation, they're operating off the 2012 edition of NFPA 101, which probably gets us back to the 2010 edition of NFPA 30. I only bring it up to identify that this could present two different documents that would be applied at institutional occupancies.
So how I would answer that question is only 605.411, 421, 422 is going to reference the 2018 version of the UL 142A standard. So we're not referencing anywhere in this proposal NFPA 30, the 2021 edition. We're just identifying this listing, and that's it.
And my interest is only to reduce the opportunity for two different code books to be applied to the same generator tank.
Nope, I understand. Yeah. And again, this is just in addition to listing that allows it a little easier for people to allow the UL 142A.
Okay, so with that, is there a language change that's needed to clarify that, or are we good with the way it sits?
I would say that most of these are not. 4 out of 5 of these for me are cell towers. I think these tanks are usually on the smaller ones, right, Ken?
Yeah, no, we've seen them in the
Okay.
500 gallon range, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
to me that's smaller, but
Yeah. You would have them at hospitals, but I think you could still get there through alternative means, right? Because it's a newer thing that exists than the code. And no matter what we do, you're going to have 2 NFPA documents being applied to a permit because you're still in the 2010, and we're going to be further out than that no matter what we do.
Understood. Okay.
I'll echo Chris's statement. I was going to say is the alternative methods material. So I would think even the older code would be able to say if it's a new UL standard, the code doesn't have that in it. It's still allowed. The HA is still allowed to consider that.
Excellent. Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, with that, looking for a motion to push this to the BFP committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Dave and a second from Chris. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Do we want to consider something? Let's do a different proposal that doesn't have a Ken relay in front of it.
Yeah, would somebody please take over some of these, please?
Are there any? Were there other ones?
I was gonna say, we would be more than happy to, Dave, if we had any.
Well, I have
This-
one.
Please give me a
Zero.
break.
Do we have it?
035.
I think the only ones we can look at are all from Ken.
Okay, so we won't be able to look at even talk about it.
After the meeting, if we want to have we can close the meeting and just talk about a proposal.
Or
Absolutely.
can we look at something under other business? Just to look at it, but we won't take action on it?
Yeah, we can do that. That's what, yeah, we can. Yeah, that was the whole reason of sending out the spreadsheets, just so people could work ahead and have notes for the tag meeting. So are we going to 25 now?
Is that the, which one's that?
25 is the spray application.
Yeah,
Operation.
yeah, let me pull that one up here. What the heck did we do? Oh, yeah. All right. Shoot. Did I?
I know the industry called me on this one. They had questions, but I told them this was the meeting to attend, but I don't think they're here. And they didn't say what it was.
Okay. So, so this is something that we have seen in Seattle, and there was this new code amendment that was proposed for the 2024 code, I believe. Yes, it was. I'm trying to remember the number. So imagine you have a large piece of equipment and they don't make a spray booth for it. And you need to spray it, you need to clean it, you need to do something on the outside. And there's nothing in the code right now. So trying to basically put a pointer in for membrane enclosures to NFPA 33, because we're finding that people are erecting these large structures and there's no really pointer to get somebody to NFPA 33 to start looking at these things. And that's kind of what I'm doing here, just trying to get a pointer for people who will look at NFPA 33 for membrane enclosures that are using them for spray applications. I'm going to see if I have anything else to add to that. Let me.
Was this before Ken going under the tents, like those set the tent section, or how were they enforcing it before?
Nobody was allowing it.
Oh, okay.
And because nobody was looking at NFPA 33 and say, well, wait, there's a section in NFPA 33 that allows it, but we didn't have a reference to it. So we would probably have to add in chapter 80 a reference to this new section to get people to say, okay, that this section of the fire code is referencing NFPA 33. But I'm just trying to figure out if I can find the code amendment proposal. I thought it was in here.
I've had to deal with these in Tacoma. I've approved them for a shipbuilder.
Hmm.
It-
Yeah, in Spokane, I've had to disapprove them for long steel beams in factories that just basically built a plastic tent outside of the booth and extended on the parking lot.
yeah, that's more or less what it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking through. Oh, here we go. So it was proposal F-15821. And it was done by the Fire Code Action Committee, Michael O'Brien. I didn't change any language to it. And I'm trying to figure out, let me just double check what they voted on at F-158. See. Because some the ones that don't go aren't a slam dunk at the code hearings. I don't like trying to move those. Yeah, it was the proposal was approved as currently the code is silent. Enforcement of portable spray booths and operations is difficult. The use of portable spray booths is becoming quite prevalent, and fire code officials need tools to address. The key is not allowing portable spray booths to replace permanent code compliant spray booths, and NFPA 33 task force is also reviewing additional changes. So it got voted in 14-0. So again, it's just a pointer to get people to 33. So that's all I got.
Okay. Any discussion on this as far as concerns, questions, anything like that? Does I'm going to make an assumption here that NFPA 33 has had something about membranes in there for some time.
Yeah, and we just have to make sure that we reference so what we want to do is what's not included in here is we need to update chapter 80 if this goes forward, and make sure we reference the correct edition of NFPA 33, which is currently for the 21 code would be the 18 edition. And so right now it references 2403.3.3. We would want to include that in. And then I will double check the 33, but
I believe, Ken, if I remember right, when I dug into it for the shipbuilder here,
okay.
the membrane stuff was new to chapter 33, and in the 2018 edition or whatever the edition we reference now is, because I went forward to grab it, and it was put in, there was a special like subcommittee task group kind of thing with NFPA that was made up mostly of yacht and shipbuilders on the East Coast and fire people. So I think that was kind of the impetus behind it, and it is newish.
Newish. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now just to double check.
Because I think historically they would have just sprayed it outside and not cared, but air quality requires that you not do that. So I think they're being pushed more and more to have to tarp it off somehow.
Is that update chapter 80 of the IFC that we've said?
Yeah, it's the reference standards.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, you're right, because there's a brand new chapter 18 that's in NFPA 33 that deals with spray application operations and membrane enclosures. Yeah. So,
but I have confidence that there was a lot of work done on that. A lot of smart people that went back and forth to figure out how to put it in there. So
yeah, and instead of like reprinting all of that 33 section in the fire code, I like just referencing, hey, go to 33.
Yeah, and if they find that they mess something up, they can fix it.
Okay, so Ken, are you still searching for something?
No, I'm good.
Oh,
I'm good.
Okay, sorry about that. I was waiting. I thought we were waiting on you. My bad.
Yeah, no, we'll just have to, and I don't know. Yeah, Ray, you just said update chapter 80 and just have it reference 2404.2 and 240. Actually just 2404.3. And we should be okay.
Okay.
And these are mainly my notes. When I start doing the OTS document, I get into those and I don't miss them.
I think you have an extra 0 in there, Ray.
What do I? Oh, okay. Sorry, already saved it.
That's okay. Too late. Okay, excellent. Any further discussion on that? Okay, with that, looking for a motion to push this to the BFP committee.
This is Chris. I'd move this forward to the BFP.
This is Dave, I'll
Second.
second.
Excellent. Chris with the motion, Dave with the second. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries.
Only 4 more. 27.
And just so we know, I have to stop at 1. I have another meeting at 1, so that will lose our quorum at that point. Not sure.
If we have any slam dunk ones, we'll go through them real quick so we can get them voted on.
Yeah, this next one should be pretty easy. Seven, 4, 2, 11, 4, 2, 1. Location. Okay. All right. So this is a current state amendment, but the section, I'll make sure I'm not muted. The 2021 language added the 5704.2.11.4.2.1 because that's a new section in the 2021 code. And that section is titled Location. The leak detection panel status shall be enunciated at an approved on-site location. So the underline is the state amendment, but I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that the language in the base code changed with a new requirement to make sure everybody was okay with the new requirement of that section in the 2021 code. So that's, and I don't know how many people actually knew that or not, but that was chapter 57 was my chapter assigned by the tag. And that's why I said it just needed to be looked at because that is a new section in the 2021 code. So I don't know if anybody needs to see it or not, but.
Okay, now's the time to discuss. So if anyone has any comments or discussion on that, go ahead, feel free.
Not really any comment on this. I just know that there are some irregularities to the underground tank codes. They just actually got those incorporated into the WAC that there are several jurisdictions that actually had tank programs before the state did, and they have their own language. You still have to meet the model codes, but just so everybody's aware that not everybody in the state is following the codes specifically. Spokane happens to be one of those, as we have the Aquifer Protection Act that we had a program for tank protection way before the state did. So I'll just make sure we coordinate that with our local codes so that we don't have any issues.
Sounds good, Dave. Okay, anything further? All right, looking for a motion to approve this and push it forward to the BFP committee.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Dave and a second from Matthew. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Any
Aye.
against? Motion carries. Thank you. Since Dave has to leave at 1, do we want to tackle these last 3, or do we want to jump to something that he can talk to at other business? What's our goal today? I guess is what I'm getting at.
That's up to the tag. We have 3 left. Like I said, there's nothing saying we have to get these done today. It's just saying these are ones we're allowed to look at today by council.
I like clearing my plate.
I'm down with that. All right, let's do that, Chris. Thank you.
Maximize the quorum.
Yeah. And if we can always talk about something we can in the official meeting and still talk about stuff. Just can't make it sense.
All right, Ken, how's your voice doing?
fine. The next one's really easy.
Let's
Just
do
load
it.
it on up.
Yep.
And I'm going to talk while it's being loaded. It's an existing state amendment under our commercial, industrial, government, or manufacturing. And all I'm doing is just showing the language that the state's striking, and just wanting to make sure that the tag wants to continue to strike this and not include it. And I'm fine with it just being struck. I just want to make sure, you know, we totally changed number 12 and deleted the strike through. And I didn't know if we wanted to keep it in, or if we're comfortable with the underline. And if we're comfortable with the underline, then we'll just continue the strike through and move forward.
Is this part of the mobile fuel?
No,
Okay.
Okay, discussion. Anyone have any concerns with that? Okay, with that, looking for a motion to approve and push to BFP committee.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Dave, second by Matthew. Thank you. Discussion. All those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, any against? Motion carried. Thank you.
Okay, 29. Oops.
jump to 30. Do the
Okay.
fire flow really quick.
Let me catch up on my highlights here real quick. We just did 20. Did we do? Yeah, this one here. Sorry if I don't highlight them, I'll be lost later. Number 30. That we said?
Yeah, the fire flow one, just jump to that. That should be fairly quick. So this is again existing state amendment for fire flow 507.3. I just wanted to bring it up again to the tag just to show what exceptions had been added in the past, and if we wanted to change anything, add anything, or just continue with what we had for 507.3 if there was any issues with these exceptions. So
This is Dave. I haven't had any issues with this. Actually, it's been very supportive of some of the things that we had to do over on the east side.
All right. Okay, any other discussion? Excellent. Okay, so looking for a motion to push this through to BFP.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Dave, second by Matthew. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Motion carries. Thank you.
and this, yeah, this last one is the fire access roads that we kind of looked at before. Again, this is the existing state amendments, but I wanted to show everything that was being struck. And I know that Dave, we kind of talked about state stuff and WAC and our RCW, and didn't know if you guys, want to talk about this anymore, but I just want to make sure everybody understood that the 503.5, 503.51, and 503.6 is the only portion of this area that is enforceable. And if we wanted to change any language in the 503.1 to basically say, hey, basically, let me back up. Go ahead and show everything in section 503 in our state code, but in 503.1, we maybe change that language to say, unless you have locally adopted street, road, and access standards, you will comply with section 503. And that will then allow those areas, I think Dave was talking about some county areas that don't have adopted street, road, and access standards. I think that's what I would like to propose, is to change that language in 503.1, but I don't know what domino effect it would have with an RCW or a WAC.
Personally, I like that idea because I know that some don't have locally adopted street, road, and access standards. So it'd be nice for them to be able to utilize it. I think that's what what we're getting at here, Ken. So if there's any discussion on that, let's go ahead and open it up.
In our WUI code, we have this, we have the access roads not adopted. Would we have to change anything in that, or would they just instantly be re-referenced to this code? Would we do a pointer in the WUI?
I think we'd want to do the same thing there. I'm just going ahead and read this part of RCW 1927-060 to everybody so that they're aware of why we're having this issue. So this is RCW 1927-060, number 5. No, and it's dated, so it's got some interesting wording here. No provision of the Uniform Fire Code concerning roadways shall be a part of the state building code, provided that this subsection shall not limit the authority of a county or city to adopt street, road, or access standards.
So yeah, that's where we would be in conflict, I think, with that section.
Yeah. And that's the issue we've had in the past is I've been basically working to try and find a legislator who would be more than willing to make that change, and I haven't gotten anybody wanting to even touch it.
Well, I would just say it's not the Uniform Fire Code, so it doesn't apply.
Did we do that?
And then wait for somebody to file something in the court and let the court decide.
Well, that puts a nasty spin on it, Ken.
You got to realize Seattle has like 5,000 attorneys available. So yeah, sue us.
I do like at least the step that we're taking. I did it for the 2018 where I actually showed what the heck it is we're not adopting or we are adopting. I adopt it locally. So I uncross off everything, but I got a call from our public works director immediately. And I explained to him that, this is what's always been in there. It just hasn't been written down. So I like, even if we don't change anything, the fact that we're showing it all is a benefit.
And how I see it is, you know what, we're already violating it because we already are showing section to 503 in our state code and nobody's questioned it.
Yeah, we may want to have Ray take the AG, take a quick look at that just to be sure.
What was that task again?
Just have the AG take a look at this and give an opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
We
on
could,
mine,
I think I like having the tag recommend taking it to the BFP, but we'll probably have to hear from the AG first before we can take any action at that level.
I was going to say to take the proper chain of command. That's what I was going to recommend. Push it to the BFP as written, and the AG will be attending those or the council meeting, and then it can be addressed directly. And I can give him a heads up so he can do his research before the meeting. But if the tag likes it, I would recommend the tag push it to its next level.
Well, I think we need to unstrike 503.1 and then put in the words something to affect for the locally adopted street, road, and access standards. So
I would do it with an exception, maybe, Ken?
yeah, exactly. Just move that, we'll relocate it. Exception would be locally adopted street, road, and access standards.
Move this to exception.
Yeah, move that to an exception.
Okay.
And
Review, refuse. Oops. Would it be exception 1?
it would just be exception. There wouldn't be a number 1 because
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And it would be, no, it wouldn't be there. It
Oh,
would,
Yeah,
not that
but
exception.
503.1.
it would be under the where required.
Oh, we're required.
You'd have to create a new.
Just
word
after
exception.
503.1.
Oh. Sorry. Oh, we're required.
No. Go all the way up to the top.
All the way up, all the way up. There we go.
And where it says 503.1 where required, you're gonna, underneath that sentence, you're gonna type in exception.
Oh, okay. I'm on the same page now.
And I don't want to blow your mind, but you're gonna have to then unstrike everything that is struck below that.
Everything?
Yeah, because that's, and you're gonna unstrike the 503.1.1 through 503.1.3 that's in the 503.1.
Oops, it's right there.
I believe so. Let me double check.
Oops. You thought you were gonna blow my mind.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Hey, Ray,
Yeah.
exception needs a C.
I'm sorry, what?
After the X on exception, you just need a C after the X on exception.
Oh, oops.
That was a local dialect there, sorry.
That's a
It's an
win lock.
exception.
And
Win,
then
the win
just,
lock.
and then just unstrike right above that, the 503.1.1 through 503.1.3. Which, is that right? Oh,
I
no,
think
that's not right. So that's some old language.
Yeah,
Hold on, let me pull up the 21 code really quick.
Can you give me a headache?
It's my life. What?
It looks like it.
No,
Yeah,
no,
look-
it's right. It's right.
It's right. It's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then I think to put the bow on it, I think we would say locally adopted, or I guess we would say like where municipalities or where jurisdictions have locally adopted street, road, and access standards. They
or a
need not
county
come.
or, we're a county or city, let's just use the RCW language, where
Okay,
where a
there
city
we
or
go.
county has locally adopted street, road, and access standards, so.
There we go.
Would you say that, or would you say where the authority having jurisdiction?
It's the city
That
or
would be
county.
county or city, but we're keeping
Yeah.
keeping language consistent with the other.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That
that's
should-
what the RCW uses, the county C language, so I just want to be able to specifically address that. So it's, we could get the challenge and say, well, no, we're not limiting it for the city or county. They can do what they want to, where they have their own standards, but if they don't, here's what everybody else has to follow.
Does the RCW say city or county or city?
It says county or city.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Okay, any further discussion?
I'm sure this one's gonna have a lot of conversation on the next couple levels.
And they're probably going to mention my name.
so let's add Dave's name to this proposal and I can jump off of it.
There you go.
I don't know if, does it matter that that's not a complete sentence, the exception?
Where a county or city has locally adopted a street, road, and access standard.
Is that okay that it's not a sentence? Because it isn't.
Should it say standards, these provisions shall not apply?
I don't know, because it is an exception, so I don't.
Yeah,
that's more of a
I
code
think it's
language
okay
question.
like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
Okay.
fine.
So don't put a period there.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah,
It's not a sentence if I don't put a period on it.
and we don't want an extra C coming back anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. With that, we're looking for a motion to push this forward to the BFP.
Motion made.
Second,
All right, we have a motion from Dave and a second from Matthew. Thank you. Discussion?
29.
Awesome.
Is this
Awesome. All right.
Is
Okay,
number-
all those in favor? Aye.
I
aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Any against? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
hold on, I'm kind of lost here for a second. I lost my document here.
So,
Looks-
yeah, so we're
looks
done
like-
with, the
hold
list
on.
of proposals. We can move on.
Looks like Matt has his hand up.
Yeah, I was just curious if we were going to be able to get to item 50 before we do lose quorum. Ken, do you think it's necessary, or do you think a further group discussion is appropriate for 904.1.1?
Oh, Ken's. We still got a few minutes.
Was that was the one though, Matt, that we were going to look at trying to create another group for, right? Like a,
Yeah, that's correct. I didn't know if you needed to get anything else in front of anybody here.
Would you like would we like to make a motion today on that, Ken, as far as getting a group together?
I think that'd be great, Tony. You can just say, hey, let's establish a working group, and we'll ask staff to forward the information from, Matt's group to help make this code change proposal, and we'll move it forward, and then hopefully let Dave have 6 minutes to talk.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to establish a working group on 904.1, 11, 12, and 13 to include Matt, is it Kosonen? Kosonen, thank you.
And Zach Taylor, also fire code tag. Zach Tuck. Why do I keep saying Taylor?
Zach Tuck. Is there anyone else that we want on that group?
Basically, whoever wants to join.
Okay,
I believe Mike Sitz was, he had some comments last week regarding that as well. You might have further input.
okay. Is there anyone else on the tag that would like to be a part of the working group?
Can I opt out?
What's that, Ray?
I said, can I opt out? Joking.
Okay. So that was a sloppy motion, but I think we got it. We got the intent.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye.
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 Any against? Okay, motion carries.
There was a task in there by staff. What was that task again? I'm sorry. I was gonna.
Just, I'm going to send you material that's in the code change proposal that you don't have, some additional material, and
Okay.
and if you can send it out to the tag members.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's move on and give Dave a couple minutes here.
All right, thank you. Usually I don't have as many as Ken, but usually I've had a couple different proposals, but only one of them came up to a bit of an interest, was dealing with the L&I elevators. And it actually is an interesting situation. Is if people are not familiar with how the elevators are inspected in the state, there are 3 jurisdictions. There's the city of Seattle, the city of Spokane, and the city of Washington. So for a number of years, Spokane has had an agreement with the chief elevator inspector that we have not required fire sprinklers in our elevators, whether they're hydraulic or not, because the information we had based off of the historical fires that have occurred in those pits, the cleanliness of the pits, the hydraulic oils have changed. There have been a number of documents that we've used in the past to justify it. So we now have a new chief elevator inspector who is basically looking at the code and saying, well, the code still requires a sprinkler in the pit. And you have to do that, but we're not going to take it out. And so the concern that we have is, and part of this is we may want to go ahead and consider doing this as an emergency rule. What they have said is they would not require it if the Stability Code Council felt that it was not necessary to have sprinklers in hydraulic elevator pits. So what I did, and I think this is just a proposal and there's some attached documents as well. So I just want to be able to bring it to everybody's attention, the reasoning behind this. There just have not been, according to ICCs, we've collected information from them, asked them for, or NFPA, we've asked them for historical fires related to elevators. It is, the number of fires in elevator pits is less than 0.1%. of elevator fires that occur in the country. I believe that's the number. It's been a while since I looked at the data. It's very insignificant. The hydraulic fluids typically range between 400 to 500 degrees Fahrenheit for flash point. Basically, if we have something going on with a lack of ignition source in the elevator shafts that we have, it's going to be very highly unlikely that we're going to have a fire starting in the pit compared to you have the building burning and then catching the oil on fire. If you look at in the commentary on NFPA 13, it does even imply that in putting sprinklers into pits may not be an economically sound option because of the lack of the potential for a fire to occur. So what I've done with the discussion with the L&I people is that if we remove the requirement of requiring sprinklers in hydraulic elevator pits, they would support that change and we would not have to be putting all those systems into the elevators. City of Seattle has addressed this by getting their own modification into the state requirements for the elevators. So they've addressed it as one of the jurisdiction, but what we're hearing is they would be happy with this change as well. We just haven't had an opportunity to specifically talk with them. So that's the general background of this proposal, is to remove the requirement that if it's a hydraulic elevator, they would have to have sprinklers in the pit.
Thank you, Dave. And just very quickly on that, that hits close to here. I know I've had several conversations with our sprinkler contractors who have battled and gone round and round with L&I and industry on this sprinkler requirement based on that NFPA 13 commentary. So this is refreshing to see for me, and looking forward to getting it pushed forward to us tomorrow.
Yeah, and if we deem it's necessary, we can request that this be then also modified for the 2016 version of NFPA 13 as emergency rule to get this in sooner rather than later.
Excellent.
That's all I've got.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And it looks like we're probably going to lose our quorum. So with that, do we have anything else? Or I guess we can just let's just end the meeting and we can take it off record and go from there. Adjourn.
Are we adjourning?
Everybody.
Tony, just so for my minutes, are we adjourning due to lack of quorum, or are we adjourning to end of meeting?
Dave's got a 1 o'clock, so
Okay.
we'll be adjourning based on lack of quorum.
Okay,
And I'll leave now so it's official.
thank you.